Flights feel different when your gut already solved the riddle. Mine landed like a brick. By the time my rideshare rolled onto Willow Bend, the air had that metallic bite, like pennies after rain. A small sedan with caduceus decals idled bold in our driveway, comfortable as a stray that never leaves. I told myself it could belong to anybody. But anybody doesn't hang a lilac sweater on my porch rail like rent's paid. I'm Janelle Brooks, 34, born and raised on the south side of Port Laurel. My husband, Andre, fractured his tibia at Harborline Logistics 3 weeks back. I washed him, turned him, argued with adjusters, learned the grammar of pain meds and midnight groans. Then my job shipped me to Riverton to rescue a contract we needed the way people need lights. Andre said, "Go." He said Ms. Lorraine, his mother, would check in. He said, "I'm straight." My key turned. The door swung. Butter and garlic rose up like a choir rehearsal. In the living room, Andre's cast rested across my favorite ottoman. Beside him sat Keisha, the ex-Ms. Lorraine always called the one that should have been. Her fingertips grazed his forearm like the scar belonged to her. Candles warmed the table. 2 plates steamed. Their laughter died the second they saw me, and something in the room held its breath. Andre's grin snapped in half. Panic creased his face. Keisha didn't blink. She leaned back slow, calm smile pinned on like I was intruding in my own house. My hands shook, my voice did not. "What is she doing here?" Andre's words tangled. "Ma said it'd help. Somebody with training. You were out of town. Keisha had time off." She offered. Keisha tipped her chin, voice smooth. "I'm just here to make sure he's cared for." That's it. Her hand stayed on his arm until my eyes said move. "I called every day," I said to Andre. "You told me it was your mama." "Only your mama." "I didn't want you wound up," he muttered, cast scraping the coffee table. Behind him, the evidence shouted. Neat stacks of books, a folded throw, a purse yawning open, like this was her living room. Not a visit, an occupation. My heart pounded at the insult of it. I wanted to smash every plate just to hear something break that wasn't me. I clocked groceries I didn't buy, a jacket over my dining chair, the smell of shrimp burbling in a skillet I hadn't touched. This wasn't assistance. It was replacement. "Pack your things," I told her, voice steady even as it trembled in my bones. "You're leaving tonight." Keisha glanced at Andre for permission. He shook his head. "Janelle, stop. It's late." She drove a couple hours. "One more night." I laughed without humor. "She's been here 3 in my house, sleeping in my guest room while you lied every single day." Keisha rose, smoothing her scrubs like she owned the floor. "You're upset. I understand. But Andre needed consistent care. I'm a nurse. Your schedule. Don't use my work to erase my place." I cut in. Her heels clicked down the hall like a dare. I followed her upstairs, heat climbing my chest. The guest room door swung and my breath snagged, drawers filled tight with folded clothes. Her toiletries lined beside Andre's razor, sneakers tucked under the bed. Even a carton of oat milk wedged into the mini fridge we barely remember owning. Not an overnight bag. A settlement. "What do you think this is?" I asked. "A long-stay suite." Keisha didn't flinch. "Your mother-in-law said Andre needed longer care. You travel a lot. I figured this helped." "That was my first trip in over a year," I said, a bitter smile cutting across my face. "Don't twist absence into invitation." Crutches thumped, and Andre hauled himself into the doorway, sweat shining on his brow. "Stop harassing her. She's being nice." "Nice doesn't tiptoe into another woman's marriage," I snapped. We stood wedged in that small room, the walls closing in with each breath. Keisha zipped a duffel, slow and loud, like punctuation I hadn't agreed to. "You're twisting it," Andre rasped. "She's here because she knows what she's doing. You're making her feel unwanted when she came to help." "Help doesn't hide," I said. "Help doesn't take drawers. Help doesn't set candles at my table while my chair sits empty." Keisha's tone turned syrup sweet. "I care about him. Always have. When Ms. Lorraine called, I came. That's what family does." The word hung in the air like smoke. When she brushed past with her bags, she paused, eyes on Andre. "If you need anything else, you know how to reach me." "Thanks," he told her. And that's when I knew the fight wasn't only with her. It was with the man I promised forever. The front door clicked shut. Silence fell heavy as a wet quilt, Andre crumpled onto the couch, fiddling with the remote, like channel surfing could erase fingerprints. On the stove, her meal waited, shrimp slicked in garlic butter, greens humming low, cornbread cooling to a honey dome. 2 plates, 2 forks, 2 candles guttering down. The kind of still life that tells the truth even when people won't. Candles, I said, stepping closer. Candlelight dinners with your ex, while I'm across the country, keeping the mortgage paid. It wasn't romantic, he shot back. She thought it'd be nice. You're overreacting. I laughed, and it sounded like glass breaking. You lied daily. You let her move in. And I'm supposed to call that nice? She's a nurse, he said, eyes sharp. She did better care of me these weeks than you did. You should be grateful. Grateful. The word cut deeper than any confession. Sleep never found me. I lay awake, listening to the fridge hum and the soft clatter of crutches when he shuffled down the hall. Every sound felt like a new bruise. By morning, sunlight slanted across the kitchen table, gilding those same stubs of candles. Andre sat there calm as if nothing cracked open 12 hours earlier. Fix me some breakfast, he asked. I stared. You think I'm about to stand at a stove for you after that? He sighed like I was the inconvenience. My legs still broke, whether you're mad or not. His indifference hollowed me out. I called in sick, because pretending normal would have been another lie. By noon, the walls of that house I paid for felt foreign. My reflection looked like a visitor's. I drove to my sister Tamara's apartment on the west side and poured it all out. Every lie, every candle, every whisper of garlic that didn't belong to me. She listened without blinking. If a man lets another woman move into your house while you're gone, she said finally, that ain't love, sis. That's permission to disrespect you. I don't want to walk away, I whispered. I can't unsee it. Tamara sighed, shaking her head. Then the question ain't if you love him. It's if he deserves that love. Later that afternoon, Andre's best friend Marcus dropped by with takeout and cheap beer. I heard them laughing downstairs, their voices sliding through the vent. I stayed quiet, listening. She was just helping, Andre said. Janelle made it a big scene. Keisha cooked, cleaned, gave me meds. That's it. I gripped the railing, heat crawling up my throat. My betrayal was a story now, one he was rewriting in real time. When I came down, Marcus looked uneasy. Andre told me what happened, he said. Doesn't sound that deep. She a nurse. She helped. I stared at him. Would you feel the same if your wife's sex moved in while you were gone? Cooking dinners, sleeping in your guest room? Marcus looked away. That's different. No, I said, voice steady. It's the same. Andre groaned. You always twisting it, Janelle. Making me look like the bad guy. You don't need my help for that, I said, and Marcus left soon after. That night I drove aimlessly, the city lights blurring into streaks of blue and gold. I wasn't sure where home was anymore. When I finally came back, Andre was on the phone, voice hushed. He froze when he saw me, hung up too quick. Who was that? I asked. Doctor's office, he said. About my next appointment. Then why on the call so fast? He sighed, rubbing his temple. Because you overreact to everything. That word, overreact, it's what guilty people say when they run out of lies. It's not paranoia if it keeps proving true, I said quietly. The silence after that stretched like elastic. He picked up the remote, pretending the flicker of a basketball game could drown the truth. I sat across from him, realizing this wasn't just betrayal. It was a kind of abandonment that happened with both people still in the same room. The next morning, betrayal showed up wearing perfume and pearls. Ms. Lorraine stepped in with a pot of gumbo like it could fix everything. Morning, baby, she sang. How was that big work trip? We need to talk, I said flat. She set the pot down, feigning confusion. Talk about what? About you inviting Keisha into my house. Her eyebrows shot up. My son needed proper care. That girl's a nurse. You should be thankful. Thankful, I repeated. If Andre needed medical care that bad, he should have been in a hospital. Not sharing my kitchen with your favorite ex. Her lips tightened. A real wife stays home instead of running off to some meeting. Keisha stepped up where you fell short. The words struck like stones. I didn't fall short. I built this home. You don't get to rewrite my marriage because you like her better. Ms. Lorraine's eyes flashed. I'll always put my son first. And if that means calling Keisha again, I'll do it. I stepped closer. Then you'll do it somewhere else, because this house doesn't belong to you. Andre limped in, frustration etched into his face. Both of y'all stop. I'm tired of the drama. Drama. That's what he called it. The kind of word people use when they're comfortable living in the mess they made. Ms. Lorraine's voice softened, but her tone still cut. You're young, Janelle. You don't understand marriage yet. Sometimes you gotta step aside and let someone else help. My breath caught. You think her moving into my house was help? She cared for him better than you did, she said without blinking. In that moment, I saw the truth laid bare. This wasn't just a tug-of-war between me and an ex. It was a mother who never wanted me there to begin with. When she finally left, the door slammed hard enough to rattle the frame. I sank into the couch, head in my hands. The house still smelled of her gumbo, heavy, smoky, too much time, but it all tasted like disrespect. Andre appeared in the doorway, his face tight. You didn't have to go off on my mama like that. Go off. I scoffed. She dragged her ex into our marriage. She was trying to help, he said again, tired. You act like everybody's against you. No, I said quietly. It's the people closest to me who keep proving they are. He flinched, shifting his cast. You're making this bigger than it is. She called your ex-family, Andre. I said, tears burning my eyes. And you let her. His silence answered louder than any defense. That night, I called my mama. Her voice was warm, steady. I told her everything. Ms. Lorraine's words, Andre's excuses, the lies that sounded like logic. Baby, she said after a long sigh, when a man takes vows, he's supposed to stand beside you, not leave you fighting battles alone. I bit my lip. He says I'm jealous. Jealous. Mama's voice sharpened. No, baby. You protecting what's yours. But if he's making you feel like you gotta compete for your own place, something's already broken. I pressed the phone to my chest after the call ended. The words lingered like a heartbeat. Love shouldn't make you fight for space in your own life. The days after that call dragged like heavy boots. Andre's cast was coming off soon, and I told myself maybe things would shift once he could stand on both feet again. No more excuses about needing help. No more reason to keep her name between us like a ghost. When the doctor finally sawed the plaster free, Andre walked out proud, slow but steady. For a split second, I saw a flash of the man I'd fallen for, the one who prayed with me when we moved into our first apartment, who used to dance with me barefoot in the kitchen. But the feeling vanished before I could even hold it. That evening, I tried to talk. Do you even understand why I'm hurt? I asked quietly. Why lying about her broke me? Andre shrugged, his voice flat. I didn't lie. I just left it out. You'd have overreacted. I stared at him, my throat tight. Leaving it out is lying, Andre. You hid her from me. He leaned back, arms crossed. If you trusted me more, it wouldn't matter. Nothing happened. Trust. The word dropped heavy between us. Because trust wasn't just about what didn't happen. It was about honesty, about the decision to tell the truth. And Andre had chosen silence. That night, the air in the house felt thick, charged with all the things we weren't saying. He sat scrolling his phone, thumb twitching, jaw set tight. Then it buzzed. Her name flashed across the screen. He moved fast, too fast for a man still recovering, stepping into the garage, whispering. I followed quietly, heart thudding. His voice was low, soft in ways he hadn't spoken to me in weeks. When he came back inside, I didn't wait. What did she want? He didn't even blink. Just checking on my leg. Then why hide in the garage? I asked. He exhaled hard. Because you twist everything. You'll turn a simple call into a fight. I just wanted peace. Peace. I laughed bitterly. Peace doesn't hide in garages, Andre. Peace doesn't come with lies. You always analyzing everything, he said, rubbing his temples. You're suspicious of everyone. Keisha's just a friend. You're acting controlling. That word, controlling, hit like a slap. Friends don't move into someone's house, I said quietly. Friends don't light candles and play nurse when the wife's away. He turned away, muttering under his breath, and I realized he wasn't defending truth. He was defending his right to keep her close. That night, Tamara showed up without me asking. She had that sixth sense sisters get. She always came right when the storm hit its loudest silence. She dropped a grocery bag on the counter and set a pot of mint tea on the stove like she lived there. Andre stayed in the living room, pretending the basketball game could drown us out. In the kitchen, I broke. "He's still talking to her," I said, my voice cracking. "Still hiding it. And somehow I'm the problem." Tamara shook her head, eyes sharp. "That man's acting single. A real husband protects his house. He doesn't invite trouble inside and then blame you for the smoke." Tears spilled fast, unstoppable. "I don't want to give up on him. I just want him to choose me again." Tamara reached across the counter, squeezing my hand. "Sometimes wanting ain't enough. If you can't cut off what disrespects your marriage, then maybe it's your turn to choose." Her words stayed in the air long after she left. When Andre finally walked into the kitchen, his tone was sharp. "So now you're talking about leaving me?" I met his stare and said nothing. The silence was an answer on its own. The next few days turned into a quiet war. He moved around easier now, no limp, no excuses, but our marriage was the one hobbling. We slept under the same roof, but lived in different worlds. One night, he leaned on the doorframe while I folded laundry. "What do you want from me, Janelle?" he asked, tired. "You keep holding this over me. I can't change it." I looked up, clutching one of his shirts. "I don't want perfect, Andre. I want honesty. I want to be chosen over your mama's wishes, over her comfort, over lies that keep cutting me open." He shook his head. "I told you nothing happened. You're making a big deal out of something small." "Small?" My voice rose. "You let her live here. You sat with her over candlelight while I worked to pay the bills. That's not small, that's betrayal." He sighed, exasperated. "You'll never let it go. Maybe we shouldn't be together if you can't forgive." The words hit me like a door slamming. For a second, I couldn't breathe. He walked out, and the only thing louder than his footsteps was the echo of everything breaking inside me. Later that night, his phone buzzed again. The same name, the same routine, out to the porch, whispering. I watched through the blinds, every syllable of his low voice slicing through what was left of my hope. When he came back in, I asked one last time, "What did she want this time?" He rolled his eyes, checking on my leg. "Why are you always pressing me?" "Because you're still hiding," I said. "If it's nothing, take the call in front of me." He turned defensive. "You'll twist it again. I'm tired of being accused." I stared at him, heart numb. "It's not an accusation if you've earned it." He lifted his hands in surrender. "Keisha's been part of my life longer than you. She's just a friend. You can't control who I talk to." Those words broke whatever was left. Longer than me. Just a friend. She'd been in my home, used my dishes, sat where I should have been sitting. And suddenly I understood he wasn't fighting for us. He was fighting to keep her close. The silence between us turned into something living, breathing, crawling into every room we shared. I could feel it sitting at the edge of the bed, at the breakfast table, in every unfinished sentence. Andre and I were still under the same roof, but everything else, the laughter, the ease, the belonging, had gone quiet. A week later, my mama dropped by after church, her voice as soft as her Sunday hat was bright. She came holding a sweet potato pie, like comfort could be baked and sliced. "You look tired, baby," she said, studying me. "I am," I whispered, tired of begging him to see me, tired of feeling like a stranger in my own marriage. She nodded, pulling her chair closer. "When two people say vows, it's supposed to be both of y'all against the world, not you versus him, plus his mama, plus some other woman." Tears welled before I could stop them. "I keep hoping he'll wake up, that he'll fight for us." Mama sighed, steady but firm. "Hope's a good thing, but if it starts chaining you to pain, it stops being hope. Sometimes the bravest love you can give is the one you give yourself." Her words hit something deep. I wanted to argue, to say love was supposed to endure, to hold on. But the truth was, I had been holding on alone. That night, Andre came home from physical therapy, walking fine now, the cast gone and pride back in place. He looked at me like nothing had ever happened. "You talked to your mama," he said flatly. Not a question. "I did," I said, voice even. "She reminded me what marriage should be, two people standing together. But Andre, I've been standing alone." He rubbed his face, tired. "You don't see what I've been under. Mama depending on me, you stressing, Keisha just trying to help. I was keeping peace." I shook my head slowly. Peace doesn't come from lies. Peace doesn't live where truth can't breathe. For the first time, his eyes flickered, something like regret, but only for a second. So what now? He asked. You leaving me? I hesitated, the ache in my chest swelling. It wasn't a question born out of fear, it sounded like a dare. The next morning, sunlight poured into the kitchen like it was telling the truth I wouldn't say aloud. I brewed coffee, the smell bitter but grounding. Andre came in, limping only slightly, but his ego still dragging. We sat in silence until I finally said, I can't live like this, not knowing if you're with me or just waiting for me to give up. He stared at his mug. I already told you, nothing happened. You holding on to this is what's breaking us. My hands tightened around my cup. No, Andre. You broke us when you let lies sit in this house like guests. When you let your mama's voice drown out mine. His jaw hardened. You acting like I'm the villain. I was hurt, Janelle. I needed help. She was there. You weren't. The words sliced clean through the room. I was there, I said quietly. In every way that mattered. Working, sacrificing, fighting for us. If that's not enough, then nothing ever will be. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. The silence between us told the story better than either of us could. That evening, I stood in our bedroom, suitcase open on the bed. Folding clothes felt like folding years. Each shirt carried a memory. The road trips, the laughter, the small dreams that had once felt so big. Andre leaned on the doorway, arms crossed, face unreadable. So that's it? He asked. I zipped the suitcase, the sound sharp and final. That's it for now. Until you learn that loyalty isn't optional. He scoffed. You leaving over something that wasn't even real. I turned to him, steady. It was real enough to break me. Real enough for you to choose her comfort over my trust. And I won't keep shrinking just to fit beside a man who can't see my worth. For the first time, his confidence faltered. His lips parted, but no words came out. I wheeled the suitcase past him, my chest heavy but my spirit lighter than it had been in weeks. The morning sun met me on the porch, warm against my skin. The air smelled like rain and new beginnings. Mama's words echoed softly. Sometimes the bravest love you can show is the love you give yourself. And for the first time in a long time, I believed her. I didn't look back when I drove away. The rearview mirror showed the same house I'd once called home, now just wood and walls holding a version of me I couldn't be anymore. I checked into a small apartment on the south end of Port Laurel, one of those temporary places meant for people learning to start over. The furniture was cheap, the walls thin, but the silence was mine. For the first time in months, I slept. The next morning, I opened my eyes to sunlight spilling through sheer curtains, no crutches clanking, no half-truths hiding in the corners. Just quiet and peace, the kind that doesn't have to apologize to exist. A week passed before Andre called. I almost didn't answer, but closure has a way of demanding its moment. His voice came low through the line. You really gone? I am, I said. You made your point, he muttered. But you didn't have to make a scene. I was hurt, Janelle. I needed help. I laughed softly. You needed honesty, Andre. Not a replacement. He didn't respond right away. Just silence and breath. Then, quietly, I didn't mean to lose you. You didn't lose me, I said. You gave me away, piece by piece, every time you let someone else's comfort matter more than my peace. He sighed, the sound tired, worn down. So that's it. That's healing, I replied. Sometimes you can't rebuild where the ground's still shaking. After the call, I sat on the balcony with a cup of coffee and thought about everything Mama and Tamara had said. About how love isn't supposed to keep you begging to be seen. Work kept me busy, and therapy helped me untangle the guilt from the truth. I learned that forgiveness isn't the same as return, that you can let go of pain without inviting it back inside. 2 months later, I heard through Marcus that Andre's cast was fully healed, that he was walking fine now, just not forward. He'd gone back to living with Ms. Lorraine. Word was, Keisha stopped by from time to time, just to check in. And for the first time, it didn't sting. Because I realized something. I'd been measuring love by what I was willing to lose for it, instead of what it gave back. Some nights, I still think about that last morning, the sound of my suitcase zipping shut, his silence following me down the stairs. I used to wonder if I'd done the right thing. Now I know I did. Leaving wasn't the end of love. It was the beginning of self-respect. On Sundays, Mama still brings pie, Tamara still calls to check in, and sometimes I laugh, not because everything's fixed, but because I finally stopped breaking myself to fix someone else. One evening, as the sun dropped behind the skyline, I wrote in my journal. I used to think peace was something you earned after surviving love. But maybe peace is love, the kind that stays when everything else walks away. And for the first time, the silence didn't hurt. It felt like home.